Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Bufnagle the podcast, where we explore entertaining and enlightening discussions of the adventure of life and all things good. From science and technology to history and philosophy to leadership and success. We hope to give you a better understanding of the world and skills for everyone to pursue their own adventure. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Bufnagle the podcast, where we talk about all things good and the pursuit of the adventure of life. I'm Zach, and we got a great show today that we're really looking forward to. Rafe's bringing back an old college friend of his that has gone on to do some fairly impressive things. So we're bringing her onto the podcast to discuss all of that and so much more. And I'm very excited for it. I know Rafe's excited for it. So, Rafe, how are you doing today?
Zach, I am stupendously fantastic. It is, like I always say, it is great to be doing a podcast here. I learned this week, and I actually partook in chocolate peanut butter Oreos, and like what a wonderful time we live in. That there are now, like Zach, I was at the grocery store the other day. There were 15, count them, 15 different flavors of Cheerios. 15 different flavors. And that doesn't even count the different size boxes. Okay. We're living in a fantastic world. I'm sitting here in Tennessee. You are sitting there in Minnesota. Our guest is sitting there on Long Island, and we're chatting with each other and seeing, and I can see you saying, get on with it. I mean, it's a wonderful world we're living in. I just want to thank, I always do, but the words do not express the feelings that I hold. Thank you to the listeners. We are, without you, we are nothing here. We are literally talking to the walls, and that's a bad thing. But with you guys, you give us purpose and you give us a desire to do things that do not waste your time. Along that line, Zach, I found out this week we are now a global top 10% podcast. And that is not, Zach, it wouldn't matter what we do. If the listeners don't come, then we wouldn't get that. So that's a testament to those listeners. If you want to listen, you can find us always Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, a zillion other places. If there's a platform we need to be on, tell us, we'll get on it. Send us a note, buffnagle@buffnagle.com or legal@buffnagle.com. Send us a note. We're on Twitter, we're on Instagram, we're everywhere. All right. So if you're new to the podcast, hey, welcome. Thanks for coming. We're glad you are here. We're going to ask you, give us 4 episodes. All right. We'll give you something to come back for. We're talking about a lot of different things, and surely something will resonate with you. And remember, as we always promise, if you tell a friend to listen and get them to listen, you will get a free episode. So, Zach, that is what a great day it is today.
It is a fantastic hit. You can just hear in your voice, you got that extra little chipper about you today because, today's going to be a special fun day as you get to reconnect with a old college friend of yours. So if you want to discuss that a little bit more as we bring her on in.
Yeah, in the summer of 1983, back in the day when I can't even remember what was going on back then, but I was a freshman at the University of Dayton, and I met a young lady there who is now our guest today. Our guest is a teaching professor at Suffolk County Community College on Long Island, a broadcasting superstar extraordinaire, and an entrepreneur and a helper of students. Miss Ginny Horan is with us. Virginia, it is always good to see you.
This has been the best circling back reunion ever. Now, how ironic is it that you are broadcasting? That was my major, and you guys are the broadcasters.
I'm broadcasting, and I wish I could say you were doing mathematics, but that's not exactly what's going on.
We can always believe. What's 2 plus 2?
4.
There we go. We did mathematics.
Oh, okay. All right. There it is. All right. So Virginia is a teacher at a community college. Tell us, and a lot of people might be like, well, really? I was like, yes. And she does great work, and she's here to tell us about that. So, Ginny, I last saw you at graduation a long time ago, and so how'd you get from the parking lot at the arena at UD on a Sunday afternoon in April of 1987 to where you are right now?
Via Daytona after graduation. No, I never intended to be here. I never intended to teach. and I never intended to live 5 minutes from where I grew up. Because you may not remember this, Rafe, but the 80s was all about getting a suit as a woman, and the suit should look like a man's suit, and that you were going to have it all. You were going to go out into the workforce, you were going to have kids, get a nanny, get married, and have this incredible corporate career, that kind of thing. But then the very last year of college, I got to be something called a speech facilitator. I don't know if you remember that, but if you were in your introductory communication class that everyone has to take,
I remember that class. Yes.
one day you were in a big lecture hall, and the other 2 days you went into a classroom with a senior speech facilitator who graded your speeches and told you how to do the actual speeches. And I was hooked. But it was too late. I was graduating. So I came back home and I started working in advertising in Manhattan. And
Wait. So you were you living in Manhattan then? You did. Yeah, at that point you must have had the suit and the walk and the office and the subway and the whole, like in the TV shows.
less glamorous because I lived at home and had to commute. And that's
That's right.
about 4 hours a day.
2 hours each way from Long Island, where you grew up, into
Uphill both
Manhattan.
ways through the snow.
That's right. And then you know what, Zach, we actually did do that when I was a kid, and it was so cold. Like we had a hot potato to keep our fingers warm when we were walking through the snow, and then we would eat that potato for lunch, and then our fingers froze on the way home.
Yeah, okay. You make up way too many stories for me to believe any of them.
All right. So you're living on Long Island. You go to Manhattan, and you're working there in advertising, but your heart longs to be the teacher lady.
Well, I'm thinking, I'm not sure. And boy, were the 80s fun in Manhattan. Not that I did much of that, but
Well, I can't talk about the 80s being fun in Manhattan because I was out in Fort Collins, Colorado at the time, and I think it was not quite the same place.
You may have written me a letter.
You never know. You never know what I did. So
Remember letters?
you know what? There was a group of us. Zach, here's the thing that we have okay, so our family now has a group text message that we all send it to every, they're all on the thing. But Zach, back in the day, the 5 guys in the apartment that with me and another friend, probably about 6 or 7 of us, we had a joint letter. And what you would do is you would write your letter and you would stick it into the envelope and you'd send it to the next person. And they would take their old letter out. They'd write a new letter. They'd read all the other letters, put theirs on the bottom. They send it to the next person. And it went around and around and around. It would take like 4 months to get all around to everybody. And then you do it again. And we had that joint letter for years.
That's a great idea. Actually, I never experienced that, but I do sometimes feel like this generation, they won't have love letters tied up in little red ribbon. And what do? Just print out all the text? But that's all.
I still write letters to my friends. Fun fact.
Do you really?
That's a story for another day, I think.
Do you really?
That one at some
and you
point,
put wait. You put stamps on them and stuff? Put them in their mouth?
I have done that, and then I also have typed letters and printed them off and given them to friends.
Oh, that's nice. All right, that's good because then they have it for them.
Yeah.
All right.
Unless they throw it away, but I don't care.
Okay, so wait, I can get back to this. Zach, see, you're derailing us. So you're in Manhattan. It's the late 80s, and it's not as glamorous as you hoped.
It was, I was on the Forbes yacht, and I would go to the.
Okay, wait. I'm sorry. I love the start of that sentence. I was on the Forbes yacht. Okay, it's like, all right, I didn't even know there was a Forbes yacht. Okay, so you're on the Forbes yacht now.
I'm on the Forbes yacht, and you go to these things because what you're trying to do is make connections. And if you buy a certain amount of advertising in Forbes magazine, you get a little trip on the yacht. And I'm doing these things, and I'm saying to myself, now this is the dream, right? I mean, this is what's in all the movies. This is, hey. And I'm thinking, I don't feel good. I feel empty. And at that time, believe it or not, I did not know NYU was a good school. I had no clue. But it was there, and they had communication studies. And my degree program that I ultimately entered doesn't exist anymore. Now it's called media ecology. But at the time, it was called teaching speech at a 2-year or junior college.
Wait, that was the name of the program?
Yeah.
Was teach.
Ding, ding, ding.
Well, that's what you ended up doing.
Well, I did that at night. And I always paid for everything, my education when we were in Dayton, and that's how I ended up there because of the scholarship. So I was able to get a scholarship that allowed me to take one class a semester. So I'm doing that. I'm chipping away. I'm still occasionally going on a yacht or
going in a big tall building, in the elevator, riding the subway.
Yeah, I think I saw some actors. I waved, but yeah, it was not remotely what.
Wait, I got it. Okay, so you're working in advertising, a very a field that is full of all sorts of external good-looking things, right?
Right.
But at night you go home and then you go to class at NYU to learn how to teach. What was it? Teach at a 2-year community.
Teaching speech at a 2-year college, but it actually was kind of an overall general degree.
But so when you say teach speech, is that more like going back to you being the senior consulting thing of like you analyzing people's speeches and the way they present themselves on a stage, or maybe even present themselves through written work itself?
That was exactly what it was, because back then everything was about your ability to speak in public. I mean, there wasn't a single undergraduate who didn't have to take public speaking. It's evolved since then. Now we do something called Introduction to Human Communication, which has a public speaking unit, but you can still go hardcore into another class called public speaking. So when I saw this, I thought that, well, this is a sign that this is so narrow and specific. So I would go at night, and then I was getting close to being finished. Now, my job in advertising it wasn't as glamorous as other jobs. I had Twining's Tea of London, so that was cool, right?
So you have an account, right? So you work as an advertising, like an exec. Is that what's called, an advertising executive or an account executive or something?
I was a copywriter, and that was actually very cool. Just like the movies, you're sitting there with an artist and everybody's brainstorming. But then I moved into the account side of it. And then I had to take Sam Twining for fuzzy navels and potato skins at TGI Fridays because he couldn't get them in London.
Okay, wait. So Twining tea, it's a kind of tea. It's very fancy, I would assume.
You will know it if you see it.
See, I'm not a tea guy.
It's not the tea I buy because I'm not that fancy. It's not Bufnagle tea.
Zach, we need to get into importing tea.
And exporting tea.
That's right. Bring it in, take it out. So, all right. So this guy who runs the tea company from London was like, I'm coming here to America. I want to get me some potato skins at where'd you go? Bufnaglers? What was it called?
It was TGI Fridays.
Oh, TGI Fridays.
Still new.
Yeah. That's right. Okay.
Did you just refer to TGI Fridays as Bufnagle?
Yeah. It seemed to me like that was the appropriate name.
I've been dropping a few Bufnagles here and there.
That's good. Someday the origin story will come out. So, all right. So you have to take, the king of tea from England to TGI Fridays, and like this is your existence now as copy editor for like. So you write drink Twining tea. It'll make you feel good inside, or whatever. You write that on the advertisement, right?
It was worse than that because I had segued out of copywriting, and my original copywriting won some awards, but my copywriting career was for a crisis communication firm, very boutique, that worked with utility companies. So one of their clients was 3 Mile Island.
Okay, so Zach, do you know what 3 Mile Island is? You may not know this.
Yeah, that's one of the things that blew up with the testing of atomic bombs and stuff, right?
Well, it was a nuclear power plant in Pennsylvania, and it came very close to melting down, but it didn't, and that was a big scare.
Oh, that was the U.S. Chernobyl.
But it wasn't Chernobyl because we're not the Soviet Union.
Well, because it didn't actually blow up, but it was the closest thing to.
Yeah, right. Okay, so you worked for the company that did like that.
repaired their reputation,
Wow.
restored
Okay.
consumer confidence. So that part of it was very cool, very challenging. But then I moved on to public relations. So now I'm out kind of holding up tea bags and taking this guy to drink because they like to drink in London.
In the 80s.
Oh, yeah, but I'm still.
Still, okay.
I still do.
Have
So
you been to England?
Well, Zach, I've been through the airport there twice on my way to Paris. Yes, I have been. Zach, I've been around a lot of places that you haven't been.
I'm sorry that you were allowed to travel before a pandemic made all the fun things.
Yeah, that's true. That's okay. All right, so I'm just trying to get my head around this because I didn't know any of this about you. That you were like this highfalutin international cop. Okay, so you wrote copy and you won awards. Did you send Professor Ruff a thank you note for helping you become such a wonderful writer?
I did not. I should have, but I only had him once. And you had asked me the last time we spoke about things you wish you'd done and regrets. And one of those is the way I chose to pursue my education, which was super pragmatic, super hardcore, get a job.
Yeah. Okay. So Professor Ruff taught our freshman English course. So, okay. So you're doing all this, you're finishing up your degree. It's time to teach at the 2-year school. Do you stop? You just stop being an advertising lady?
I wish it could. You said you wanted to hear a story. So these are like crazy. Yeah. This is a story.
Yeah.
So I'm at the Twinings tea place and it's just not cutting it. And I realize I'm very close to graduating. So my advisor at NYU says to me, take a secretarial job here. You'll get free tuition.
At the college?
Yeah.
All right.
So I go from highfalutin Forbes yacht, I just wrote, an ad for Newsday, to now I'm a secretary for a bunch of professors in educational administration.
At NYU? All right.
At NYU, but I get 9 credits a semester free.
All right. Go dog go.
So I started moving through it more quickly. And about I'm almost there, right? So it's months away. And someone says to me, oh, you'll never get a job. You'll never get a job teaching. Nobody was going to hire you with a master's degree. You really need a PhD and you'll never get a job. And I experienced my first major situational depression. And I didn't know what was happening to me at the time. I mean, I always was an anxious person and neurotic. Not that I let you know that.
No, I had no idea.
Yeah, I think everybody knew. Didn't everybody know? So I hit this wall. Like, why did I do this? So I continued I said, I'll go back into marketing and advertising, but at least I'll have a master's. And I was interviewed and got to the very end of being the head of marketing for the Princeton Review, which is that academic test prep company.
Yeah.
Along the way, I went on this date and I met this guy. And
guys are the worst.
Way to go, guy.
Throw that in there.
Yeah.
And he was actually like not weird, not New Yorky, just really great, like a good Midwestern guy, like I was, used to. And I got a call that there was an opening at this community college. 3 weeks later, I was a teacher.
Oh, there you go.
It was truly a dream come true. It was amazing. And I want to say this so that your listeners hear this. They're interviewing me, and academic interviews are like 4 people surrounding you and asking you questions. So they're like, would you be comfortable teaching voice and diction? Would you be comfortable teaching oral interpretation? I said, can I just say something? And I put my hands together in a prayer gesture and I said, I will teach anything. Just let me teach. This is my dream. And that's why they hired me. They knew I wasn't experienced.
Well, there's some interview tips right there, right? I mean, the idea that I guess I cannot imagine somebody going into an interview and they ask, "Would you be comfortable teaching X, Y, Z?" And you're like, I'm not really sure. I mean, that would be the worst. It's like, why would you ever say that? So, no, that's exactly the right answer. And so now you have the teaching thing. What about the guy?
Well, somehow I didn't mess that up with my crazy nonsense insecurities. And, I married him.
You married him, and I assume he's in the other room right there right now.
He is. Are there sports on tonight? Is there something?
I don't know. It's probably sports on. Yeah.
It's either that or it's something very grim like Ozark or something dark that I won't watch with him.
I got you.
It almost felt like a fairy tale, Rafe, for me.
Well, and so now you have you have a husband, you have your job.
You have a really good story.
You got a good story. You got to drink fuzzy navels and eat potato skins with the tea captain of the world,
with the tea guy.
Yeah, and so all right, and now you have some little kids, and you're teaching, and so, but you teach at a community college.
That didn't happen that way because that was another twisty turn.
Oh, okay.
That I never expected. But yeah, I'm teaching. I get married, and I figure I should get a PhD maybe. So I start a PhD in humanities education. And then all of a sudden my uterus goes, I want a baby. And
well, there you go. That's how that happens,
Yeah. And eventually I did ultimately decide to leave my career teaching, which was more painful and more difficult decision than getting married. Biggest decision in my life was to walk away from that amazing job. So I did, but I raised my 3 children at home. I was very privileged to be a stay-at-home mom, which was not in the plan in the 80s, Rafe.
Yes, I remember there were no plans like that. That was against the rules.
No. And I did okay at it. I wasn't the best. I never knew when the book sale was. And, I was kind of disorganized. But
that sounds like my father.
Yes, yeah, that's why they made the calendar, so I knew where to be when, right? That was
Did you follow the calendar?
Oh, Zach, you know how I am about calendars, all right? So I'm all over the calendar, and
calendar guy, you love.
I love calendars. All right, so you're doing this thing, but I want to get to, because I don't want to run out of time here.
Sorry.
You have made never apologize. Yeah, you've made a calendar. You do a thing now for you students. You started an entrepreneurial endeavor where you do a planner thing, and tell me about that.
Okay, well, what I developed was a passion for these underprepared college students, and the community college student is so different from the typical student who's heading off to a 4-year school. They have so much more going on. First generation college students. So I'm watching them because I went back to my full-time position in 2008 by yet another miracle, right? What are the odds? And I'm seeing that they've got cell phones and laptops and ding ding, and they've got all this stuff, yet they're not able to get their work done. So of course I'm thinking, well, maybe they work 20 hours a week, 30 hours, 40. You know what? They stopped teaching time management. They don't write things down. They take pictures of the board when I've written notes, and it's become so passive that a cell phone ding ding, maybe that goes off and you go, oh my God, I have a paper due tomorrow. But that didn't help you. That didn't help you plan how you're going to break that paper down. And then all of a sudden, I love communication. I teach interpersonal communication, which I call Empathy 101 or How to Stay Married 101.
Yeah.
It's how to treat people well. But now my teaching has swerved over to embedded support, which is teaching students how to be students. Because a certain kind of student always is going to know. They had the parents, they knew. So what I created was I got free printables, and I gave them all a paper planner, and I said, here's stickers and colored pens, and I'm going to show you guys how we're going to do this. how you're going to, okay, first fill out your classes, then
What,
fill
what,
out
what was the what
work.
was the response to that? Were they like, this lady is psycho, or were they like, well, maybe there's something here?
No, totally eye rolling, and plus the thing looked so bad, right? It's just a bunch of printables I stick in like 10-cent folders from Target, and then I collected them like Catholic school. I collected them and I would see how they were doing. At the same time, I was really into positive psychology. I'd seen a documentary called Happy. Um, so I was also trying to get them to make a gratitude list once a week and to also be mindful and say, what am I doing well? What do I need to work on? Like just start, being in the moment and understanding what makes you tick while you're learning how to plan out your time. And also while you're doing that time, put in a hot shower, put in a nap, put in self-care. So I get to the end of the semester and I'm ready for them to just tell me, yeah, thanks for trying. And they all write it up as the single most life-changing element
Really?
of the
No,
course.
and this was okay. So this course that you were teaching, that you first started doing this, was this, that wasn't the course, that you just did this at a piece of that course, or was that the course?
No, I did it as a piece of the course. The course is called College Seminar. Zach, I don't know. Did you have to take like that first year? You have to take kind of a seminar.
I
No,
thought
I
you
don't. I don't think so.
didn't you have to take like a how to be a college student seminar?
Not really. Like I learned a lot of this. Like I retroact. Like my college experience, we can talk about ad nauseum, but this is not the show to do that. But there were a lot of things I didn't really learn about time management, skill management, energy management itself too, until I could say 2 weeks ago, or like my junior year of college. Like I think, yeah, it goes back to what you said about those people were so invested in their phone, were so invested in social media, were so invested in the next big thing, we're so invested in the next basketball game. So many dumb things take away our priority of being able to sit down, look at what needs to be done, what you have coming up in the week, and effectively being able to attack it. I mean, even myself, like I make a weekly like to-do list and calendar, and it's really, if you would watch me do it, you'd be like, okay, that's weird, because like on Sunday I plan out Monday and Tuesday. I don't plan out the whole week, and then on Tuesday night I plan out the rest of the week based on how Monday and Tuesday went. And then Friday comes, I make a to-do list, and then I'm flexible enough with my weekends to be able to get that done. Yeah, I it will, that the way I do things will not work for everybody, but understanding that like there are ways to do it, and like the things that we've talked about with your planner that are in there are embedded into what I do. It's just finding those ways to make it work for yourself.
Yeah, I want to go back to what you said, that they don't write anything down. And when I was in grad school, we had this professor that he would lecture straight out of his book that he wrote, right? So that he wrote the book, right, and he lectured out of the book, and it wasn't like he wouldn't copy the book onto the board, but he would talk through it. And if you just sat there and watched him, it was pretty good. But if you kept your notes as you went, the amount of, I guess, learning feedback, I'm sure there's a theory about that somewhere, how much deeper it gets if you take and write it out. And if you kind of take it out, and I'm a big, I always tell my kids when they're doing algebra, tell me what you're writing. Tell me what, x equals 4 plus 3y, which is the same as 4 minus 2, and then I would tell them, say that out loud, because then if your hand writes something different than what you're saying, then you're going to recognize that discord, and you'll be able to fix that. There's a lot deeper learning there.
Yeah, I mean, additionally too, like when I was coaching rugby, one of the things I did was if we were running a play, I would, before the play, I would be like, "What's your job on this play?" And the player had to speak out loud what they were doing, and then I wouldn't run the play. We would shuffle positions, and now what are you doing? So like there was that continual feedback loop of, okay, what am I doing? What position am I in? And how do I attack that? And it's the same thing with planning a daily event, or for planning a weekly event, or planning all those other things that I feel like my generation has lost so much of.
It's what it is, you guys, is active. active versus passive, and you've got kinesthetic learners, you have auditory learners, you have visual learners, right? But what they have found, and I love when I find this, Neuroscience News just published a study. When you write by hand, you slow down, you activate the thinking part of your brain, which increases your memory. And what have we stopped doing? We have stopped writing things by hand. And tapping into a laptop is like court reporting. When you are in a classroom, you are just trying to get it all down. You're not thinking about it. So I try to teach them color coding too. Like put every date in history class in red and put every name in green. And at least then you have to think, is this a red thing or a green thing? And you're not just absorbing it. And the minute you think about it, just even for a few seconds, that it's not automated and you slowed down and you wrote it out, you are so much better prepared to remember it.
But this was part of the, okay. So there's two questions here. So one of them was, so they, at the end of your course, they were hooked that semester. They were like, this was the greatest thing ever. All right. And so that led into this, like, I'm going to make this, I'll make it better next time. I'm going to go to version 0.2 now instead of 0.1. So what was the progression of that?
Okay. So they're like, can we have a planner club? And I'm like, sure. And so we needed a planner. And I go looking because I want this very specific horizontal week at a glance, because I want them to actually look at their week and see blocks of time and tap into the visual learning. So I go looking for one. I can't find one. And I'm looking at the icky one I put together. So then I randomly Google how to make your own planner. Ding, ding, ding. Hooks me up with a product coach, it's called, named Sarah Lidwell Jernan in Oxford, England.
Oh, yes.
So we're back to the tea again.
She knows the tea guy. Yeah. All right.
Crazy, and I've never been there. I've been to Bermuda. That's it. I've gone nowhere.
I have Bermuda shorts.
See? It's all the same.
I know Bermuda get grasses, so
there you go. All right.
Okay, so just very quickly, she starts telling me how to do this. And all of a sudden, I'm like 54 years old and I'm like making this book. And I get a designer in Romania named Gabriella.
You know, our biggest foreign, outside the U.S. listener base is in Romania.
Gabriella, I love you. She's phenomenal. It's almost like we were in sync. Like she knew how I wanted it and needed it to look. And then I find a printer, and then so now I have 3 different world clocks going because everything's very expensive here. I approached some U.S. printers, and they laughed at me like, well, yeah, how many do you want? I'm like, 300, you know?
Like, we're going to do 300,000. Yeah, right.
Yeah, maybe come back when it's 300,000. And we call it the Centered Student Planner, and we sold out our first year, which is unreal because just as I was looking at the galleys and going, look at this, COVID, everybody's out, nobody's going to school.
All right, so so you made this planner for the 2020-2021 year, or 19 to 20?
No, I made it 2021 and was on the fence about doing it again, but I've decided to do it again.
You're going to do it again. So, and now, so you have to make a new one every year because the weeks shift, right?
Yeah.
So you will make a new one. So, well, from a business point of view, that's kind of nice to get a subscriber, and you can, but you have to do that, right? Because your planner fills up. And now the planners I had when I got to industry, when I got my first job in the early 90s, they sent us, I think, 3 days to the Franklin Quest. Yeah. Yep. And we did that. And I had, for years, I had the whole binder. I had like all of them up there. And, you know, I did that. And that was pretty good for me because it helped that. And I still do parts of that. I don't do it quite the same way because I really do use my online planner. I have an online planner as well, but I use my online planner and calendar. So, So is there any idea that you could make this kind of like 3-ring binder-esque, or what makes your system different or better for college students than just sending the kids off to Franklin Covey?
Okay, well, what's interesting is all the bookstores are like, do you have an undated version? I'm like, absolutely not. That defeats the purpose. Do you think someone who doesn't plan is going to fill out all the dates in a planner? Absolutely not. But so it's got this layout, but what I decided to do was I want them to practice gratitude. I want them to have a focus for the week. But what I think is the coolest is, you know what a QR code is, right? You guys
Yes, we do.
tech.
We're experts in QR codes now.
We just did some QR codes. There's some Bufnagler stuff coming out with QR codes, just as a hint. So go ahead.
So my niece Madison's like, I'm writing these tips at the top, and she's like, nobody's gonna read all that. Make it a QR code. So these QR codes they scan with their phone, and then it takes them to a video where I say things like, you may get your heart broken in college. I do that in February, and this is how you want to deal with that. When I talk about guess what? Let's talk about parties, and balancing that. And then there's note taking, and then there's how to approach your professors. All sorts of little tips that I give my regular students in class. But guess what? I got to redo them all, which is fine.
Because of the COVID thing?
No.
Or you just got to do a new year?
They're 4 minutes. They're too long.
4 minutes is too long. This podcast is like 40 minutes. All right. So no, this is fantastic. So where do our Bufnaglers listeners, where do we go? Okay. So wait, so is there a new one coming out? This one going to come out for 21, 22. Is that right?
Yes, it is on the ocean. It is coming this way, but it's better. I improved it. They wanted more room to write. They wanted, a monthly, and don't,
Are those stickers?
These are my groovy stickers that Gabriella in Romania makes. So that's
nice.
Like a little flair in your planner.
You know what we say about flair?
We like lots of flair.
Do you guys have flair?
Oh, we have a lot of flair.
We
use
do.
At least the minimum amount of flair.
We always we set the maximum amount is what we do.
So
so they're coming, and they can go to www. And this is so long, thecenteredstudentplanner.com.
Or if you don't want to type that in, the link will be in the description of this episode. So for all of our college listeners, law school listeners, don't go to law school, that's another point. High school listeners, or anything else in between, or even statistical professionals who need a little more planning in their life and organization, you can take that link, support that, check that out, find out a little bit more, and then use that to help better your day and week.
Okay, and this is like a real nice binder, right? I mean, this is not a binder. It's a book. Like it's got a spine on it, and it's got nice paper. And
well, I went with the heaviest paper. I went with the vegan leather cover. Now I kind of feel like Vanna White, like I'm showing you my planner. Yep. But here's the thing. I hate spirals.
Yeah.
Because they wiggle out.
Yes, they do.
Just like babies wiggle out of diapers.
Yes, they do.
Spirals, they wiggle out.
And they catch on your sweater, and
it's a drag. So I said, no, give me the best possible lay flat binding. And, it's just the kind of thing where even, I don't know, I like to look back at mine from the previous year. I don't know if you guys ever do that, but I'll flip through it and it'll remind me of something that I did. So it's also kind of a cool way for a student to remember these really pretty amazing years.
Yeah. Yeah. So, okay. So they can get this planner, and it comes with all the link to all the stuff on the interwebs for them to help out.
And the stickers
and the stickers and the whole 9 yards. And it comes in 2 colors, if I remember right.
Yes. It comes in blush pink and navy blue. And you guys are very kind to let me talk about it, because I'm like what's the fish that goes upstream?
Salmon?
Okay.
I was going to say upstream fish, but this is salmon.
I'm a salmon because I'm saying paper. Right by hand.
No, we're going to do it. I'm a big paper fan. Zach, you know this. I talk about paper all the time. I'm
a big paper fan too.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of big paper, like 11 by 17.
I use that.
Yeah, and I had big chunks of that at my old job, and I kept anything I printed off that I didn't need to throw away got into the recycle bin, and it's great for doing mathematics. And I'm a big paper
Statistical
fan.
programming and
Yeah, all sorts.
law and anything you can think of.
But I know Zach has to ask you a question here at the end of our show. Zach, what would your question for Miss
Yeah,
Ginny
so
be?
we are edging on the out of time, which is unfortunate because this has been a fantastic episode, and corporate is going to yell at me to get kicked out of the studio here. So we won't worry about them at the moment. But my question I like asking all of our guests is what advice can you give our listeners to help them seek and pursue the good in their own lives based on your stories, what you've seen, and where you're going?
Okay, I will tell you what I tell all my students. And Rafe, I'm going to be wrong, but statistically,
Yeah, it's okay.
okay, I tell my students, if you flip a coin, what are your odds? And it's 50-50, right? And I say, live your life as if 50% of the time you're probably wrong. And then you can listen to other people who disagree with you. You may still end up being right, but so much of our ego destroys our progress. And my belief is the good is assuming the best in others and not assuming people are trying to hurt you. Like, do you ever wake up and say, I'm going to cut somebody off on the parkway today? I'm looking forward to that. No, but we do it. It's an accident. So why do we feel people are trying, oh, they did that to me? So I think be open to being wrong. Therapy is a privilege, not a punishment, and truly life-changing. Don't be afraid to dig deep. And meditation.
Wow. All right.
Meditation is in the planner too.
No, this is fantastic.
Slow down and appreciate things a little bit more. I like it.
Be
I
in
like
the
it.
moment. Be in the moment, and nothing in our life really. People are doing it now more than ever, don't you think?
I think we're shifting that way. I've seen the shift. I felt a shift. So
I think I've heard a lot of people say, I don't want to go back to the old life I had when I had to rush to the office and do all those things. And the only people I really feel sorry for these days are the people in corporate real estate, because I don't know what they're going to do with all those offices, but they'll figure something out. Something good will come if we focus on what we can do for the good.
And notice the joy in your life, because for me, it is joyful to see you with Zach. That's an amazing thing.
It is. It has been amazing. And like I said before, Zach has been on me to do this for like a decade. And finally I said, look, you figure out how to make it work and we'll do it. And he did. And it's like I said, I'm grateful every day for the opportunity to spread the good and hopefully give people some things that can help them get through their day. And I would not have done it without Zach. So I'm very pleased.
Yeah. I don't think I have anything else to say. Thank you so much for joining us. This was a fantastic conversation. I'm sure we could have carried on for another couple of long times, and so much. I felt so much warmth and joy from doing this. But again, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Yes. So again, to all of our listeners, thank you for listening. Thank you for showing up. Go seek the good, be the good, and spread the good. Enjoy the adventure of life.